Welcome to Reset with Ball Doggett, the conversation connecting our industry. I'm Zaidee Jackson, Business Development Manager for Ball Doggett. When I started this journey 12 weeks ago, the objective was really to create a connection and a conversation with industry thought leaders, and both in the creative and the print arena. I've had the privilege to share moments with incredible individuals that have opened us up and shared experiences through a time of uncertainty. We journeyed the path of how they responded to the pandemic that has impacted us both personally and professionally in ways we were not prepared for, but we created new pathways and sought opportunity in a time where change was the constant notion each day. Today's episode will in fact be the last in our series, and I could not have asked for a better way to wrap it up. I'm delighted to be in the company of two exceptional, talented gentlemen, both with a depth of experience in the curation of brands, conceptual thinking, and craftsmanship of design. Andrew Ashton and Joel Priestland. How are you, gentlemen?
Hello.
Good. I'm really great. I just want to call out today because it's the 30th of September and it's Ball Doggett's birthday, so that's why I have Paul's poster in the background. So.
Limited edition poster. Happy birthday, Mr. Garbage.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Paul.
He's going to love that.
He's going to love this.
Both Andrew and Joel are in fact internationally recognised creative directors, and in my 20 years experience, I've enjoyed conversations throughout my time with these gents, and in the pursuit of great design is ultimately what they strive to do. So gents, let's get into Reset 12, and before we do that, let's get our viewers acquainted with who you are. Andrew Ashton says, I love to help people think and act creatively, strategic creative, artful designer, mentor, educator, Alliance Graphic International, IGI member, and also the occasional gardener, working with a national food and beverage brand, as a distiller, a butcher, a circus community, a local bistro, a community festival, a printing services company, and an international university. Mr. Joel Priestland is a creative director with over 20 years of brand design and art direction experience, creating brands and campaigns in the tech, arts and culture, sports, fashion, luxury and property spaces. Originally from London, he has worked for design and brand agencies between London and Melbourne, producing work for clients such as Romain Miller, Matches, Lockheed Martin, Samsonite, Lou, Victor and Rolf, L'Oreal, Holden, Lacoste, Swarovski and Samsung. For the last few years, Joel was creative director at Australian headphone startup Neura, where he took the brand from Kickstarter to being the fastest growing headphone brand created in the last 10 years. Since COVID, Joel has been working with agencies and studios such as Base Design, Studio Angarato, The View from Here, and he's currently working with Design Studio in Sydney. When he's not working, he's teaching his gorgeous twin 8-year-old daughters how to skateboard while he learns himself, and hopefully he's very careful. So let's get into it, gentlemen. The journey we've shared.
You can skate. That's great.
I can't skate. I'm trying.
Really?
I want footage, slightly, Joel. I want footage.
Send you some bad, yeah.
So where we are as a community, we've really had an incredible time to reevaluate and reflect. And ultimately, we've been in a position where we had to moderate our own life, personally and professionally. I want to step in to firstly find out how you are and what's changed for you and what was your first go-to when our world changed in front of our eyes. Andrew, I want to start with you.
Thank you. I suppose because I've been in practice 30 years, I've seen this sort of situation happen before, even though, the situation is not in a generation, it's been in generations since it's occurred. But I suppose because I've seen it before, I just knew it was just time to shut down and rethink things and not carry on as if it was normal. Really, I just sort of did my best to just close everything down and just really focus on being in this moment rather than panicking about what's gone. It's gone now, and I just I suppose I just reset myself so that it was all about working in a period of time that potentially, you know, not working in a period of time, but putting aside where I started or where I was working and actually just focusing on what is next. It's a little bit, for me, a bit like the calm before the storm. So I've really enjoyed being still. I've really enjoyed being present. And I've just taken advantage of that. You know, I'm just a very, very privileged person in that, you know, we can work from home and we can socially distance. You know, we can, we can sanitize and so forth. So I just reset really quickly and just focused on being in this moment right now. Yeah.
Great lesson. Joel, what about yourself?
Yeah, similar. I mean, I left Neura like on something like March the 11th, and then all this stuff kicked off. And so I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to take some time, and you know, hopefully things will be easy to, you know, when I want to get back into things. And then when it all kicked off, I was like, wow, okay, you know, you're just kind of almost like watching the Titanic go towards the iceberg type thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for the first lockdown for Melbourne, I literally was like, okay, I'm just gonna, you know, hang out with the kids and build cubbies and do fun stuff like that. And then kind of started thinking, you know, as it sort of drew out, like, yeah, we need to start thinking about, you know, what's going to happen. And I guess because everyone was in this massive change, it kind of felt less worrying than it might do normally if it was, you know, just you. So yeah, you know, I had some interesting stuff cancelled. I was going to work on an amazing project with Aruba, the country. I was going to be working with, you know, kind of doing some brand work with them. And the innovation minister basically got COVID the morning of the call that we were supposed to kick off on. So that just got cancelled straight away. Oh. So yeah, it was literally like holding onto the handles going, okay, just, you know, see what happens. Yeah. Ride it out. So yeah, I think just rolling with the punches, I guess, is kind of, and kind of, I suppose, you know, giving yourself the time as well to just not try to worry about stuff too much.
Yeah, I think, and the idea of both of you actually sitting in the moment and understanding what it is you need for yourself, I think is probably one of the most powerful lessons to take away from this. And that steps into the next question. What really has been the biggest revelation for yourself and your practice as creatives during the last 7 months? You know, that was March. We're now going into October and coming out of, particularly in Victoria, coming out of stage 4. Andrew, for you?
I wish you'd asked Joel that first. I'm still kind of considering that answer.
Joel,
I can go first. I'll take the pressure. For me, the most interesting thing I think has just been the way that everyone's adapted to it. Like, you know, I've worked, and I guess interestingly, with some different teams in different businesses, and just the way that everyone's kind of like, okay, we've adopted this tool to, you know, be able to kind of create collaboratively or whatever it is. So like, you know, working recently on Miro or Figma, or just you know, trying to find ways to be able to have creatively collaborative conversations, but without being in the same room. You know, it's not easy, but we're kind of, I think we're sort of scraping it together, and everyone's kind of getting there and working with it.
I find this question hard to answer because there's that sort of immediate thing of, you know, people working differently together, which is the big, you know, which is obviously the sort of immediate impact. I suppose what I've been looking at is the studio that I had before is not going to be the studio that is going to proceed into the future. And, you know, it's a little bit like seeing someone for the last time and not realizing it.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, I've been very much reflecting on where my practice has been, and you know, for example, I was invited by Australia Post to do a commission of stamps for. I was actually going to be out right now for their Collectors Month, and I hadn't been asked to do stamps in 23 years, so I was just so excited to, you know, get involved in it, and you know, it was just taken away from me. And, you know, I suppose that, you know, what was really interesting about the last few months is sort of understanding what has been taken away and what's left and what's to proceed with. So like Joel, it's super exciting seeing, you know, it's great that people don't have to fly to different states to have an hour meeting. You know, I think that's just incredible. I've really enjoyed the way that people have been working around things. I think we've been so used to having our way for such a long time. And we're talking three generations since the Second World War where we've had a true interruption. And it's just been wonderful seeing people adapt and get back to the basics, you know.
Absolutely.
And that's been very exciting. And I'm working on a project which is a studio, you know, practice-based mentoring project. So I've just found it fantastic just to have that stillness to think about how people practice and how they make the work they do and what sort of creatives they are, and you know, where I can sort of help them, you know, move and transform and change their career. So it's been very, very interesting just sitting back and, I don't know, like the John Lennon song, you know, what is it? I've been sitting around watching the wheels go round and round, you know, what's that song? It's just been really great just sort of being still and seeing how people are adapting to things and how human nature is being brought to the fore here, you know, the good side of human nature, you know, which is super exciting. I'm not sure about the spoon thing. What do you reckon, Joel? You know, the spoonvilles and all that kind of stuff, and teddies in the window, and you know, it's just been really great. I really wanted to get out in lockdown. Like, so we had a curfew, as you know, and I heard this radio documentary on the ABC, and a guy was given a permit to be in Melbourne after 8 o'clock. And, you know, that song by the Specials, you know, Ghost Town, was sort of, you know, kind of playing in my head. And, you know, it was just surreal. And I suppose that, you know, the big part of it, yes, got to look forward and, you know, work out what's next. And, you know, very, very lucky in that, you know, we can work from home and, you know, there's real potential. But also outside in the world, you know, what's been the most wonderful revelation is just watching how Melbourne's become alive. You know, the birds are out, you know, I see dolphins, I see in the bay, you know, there's a stillness and a quietness that, you know, I hadn't heard since I was in Amsterdam a few years ago, because that's you know, primarily a bike city. Yeah, that's right. You know, to hear that ambient noise just go, you know, I heard a plane I'm near Moorabbin Airport, and I heard a Learjet or something go across. You rarely hear plane noise, you know, all that ambient noise has really dropped. So I suppose it's, you know, it's just been wonderful to be still. I suppose that's been my revelation.
I think it's a massive one, because I think, you know, when you're talking about, which steps into the next question about self-development, when you are able to sit still, clarity comes through that. And you're right, there are no distractions, and we've actually found ways to be able to communicate, collaborate, work, project-based, you know, lead teams, whatever the case is, through Zoom, through whatever technology that you needed to. But you're actually then, once that screen goes off, you're back in your own space, and really to be able to sit down and work through what it is you need to for the outcome. And, you know, and I think, you know, the next question is really for you guys as creators and practitioners, what are share your thoughts on self-development? I mean, Andy, you're talking about mentoring and getting, you know, that moving forward and helping everyone else.
I've had a really good time. You know, I converted my garage into a studio.
Right.
And I look, I had the time to work with a builder and apprentice with a builder. So I became, you know, I'm 51, and, you know, career in design, etc. But because I had this stillness in my life, I worked with this builder to, you know, convert the space that I'm sitting in now, and it was wonderful. You know, I've done I'm doing a couple of courses with the IDO online, just to. I was awarded a grant for Powerhouse, and I've used that money to do more courses. And sorry, someone's annoyingly ringing me. Go away. You know, I've done a couple of online courses, and it has been fantastic. You know, in that my sister was telling me, she's in HR, that 70% of people don't finish online courses. And I've discovered that. I nearly failed it twice, you know, because I was just too busy building stuff and and look, I've just really enjoyed. Look, I'm really blessed where I live. I live Bayside, and so within the 5Ks, we've got Port Phillip Bay, or NEM, as the Indigenous people in the area called it. And I've been able to walk there every day, and I've been photographing the bay over COVID. I've got, you know, well over 4,000 shots just of the bay in exactly the same position and exactly the same moment. And, you know, it just teaches you so much. You know, life goes on while we're all freaking out about toilet paper and things. You know, it's, you know, the wheel keeps turning. You know, it's and every day is different. And I don't know. I've just found many lessons in that.
Yeah, it's great. And it's going back to your previous point as well, going, you know, the past is the past. Stay in the moment and understand what the future looks like for yourself. What about you, Joel? Self-development, how does it sit with you?
Yeah, I similarly didn't finish a course. I started a course. I started a strategy course, which was largely kind of strategy. Do you know Sweathead, Mark Pollard?
No. Can you do it? Can you re-enroll?
You can start whenever you like, and it's just it's supposed to be 100 days of exercises basically, and I think I did about.
Isn't it, right?
It's hard to keep
motivated.
Keep up with it, but it was great fun. And the other good thing about it was that people were doing it globally, and there was a kind of way to connect with people. So I kind of made friends with people on a Zoom chat. You know, there's probably like 5 people. A girl in Turkey, someone in the States, someone in Czechoslovakia or somewhere. So, and you know, we all just chat stuff, and that was kind of nice as well. Like connecting with people around the world who are literally going through exactly the same thing in different ways. But you know, being able to talk about stuff with people that were having similar experiences was really powerful. I think
that's one of probably the best lessons for me. You know, we're not in this journey in a solo space, because you are able to have these conversations with people and actually, you know, share their ideas and their heartache or their celebration, and take from that what you need in that moment, which I think is quite powerful. And that's what human nature does, you know, when you are in a good space and you can hear the birds chirp and see the blue sky. So I think I think as well, like learning, like you said, Andrew, like, you know, learning to do something that maybe isn't related to work, you know, like build a shed, or, I mean, I try and make stuff with my hands just because it kind of feels like it's therapy from the other side of creative thinking. But, you know, as well, the skateboarding thing was just a way to kind of help myself. But that was kind of fun just because it's totally not related to anything. And I think it was great to try and do something that I know I'm really bad at.
And how did you go with it?
Yeah, all right. I mean, like I skated as a kid, but never well, and never did it as a team, which I guess is when you get good. So I taught myself to ollie. I'm getting there with kick flips. Just kid stuff basically, but that's good fun. My excuse is teaching my kids, but you know, it's good.
You gave it a crack though, mate. You gave it a crack. You know,
it feels good just to be learning something. I think anything, like if you can feel like you're progressing no matter where you are, it feels like a good bit of psychology, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to share with you guys something that I actually learned how to, I said to Andrew the other day, create my own website, which I never thought in my lifetime I would have been able to do. So I'm pretty proud of it. But don't critique the design. It's just the fact that I got it done, guys.
Definitely.
Look, there's so much change going on, and I'm interested to hear your perspective on how your lens views moments of change. You know, there's been so much of it. Andrew, we've spoken about it at length over this time. I'd love you to share your thoughts around that.
I think with just being a little older, you know, as I said at the start, I'm more accepting of it rather than living in where I was. I very much, you know, get on with what is in the now rather than, you know, kind of like, I could have done some stamps for Australia Post. Amazing, right? But you're doing sort of that, you know, having that project again. But, you know, that's just what it is. And, you know, I've just got to face what's in front of me. I think that's, one of the biggest challenges, I think, for people in that, they had something set up before and it's, so perfect, and they're working towards this idea. You think about all these people that, like I had a client who, dropped $1 million on a bistro fit out, and they were only open for 2 months. I've got friends that have opened studios that invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in fit outs, and they're working out that, that studio environment, might not be appropriate. So many different things. There's just so many things that people have had to deal with that I haven't even come close to. So I'm just incredibly grateful for being in a career where it can skate around the cracks. If you own a retail shop and you're selling giftware, it's trouble. And if you haven't invested in kind of product differentiation and and a bricks and mortar business, you like your whole livelihood's sunk in that thing, and you're committed to leases, and
absolutely,
there's a lot of heartache. There's people that work in meatworks that can't socially distance in their work, and they can't, I shouldn't be using that word socially distance. It's actually physically distance.
Yeah.
And I think that's where our politicians, just on a quick segue, they took over the language there and called it socially distance, and that's the wrong thing to do. It's physically distance, because one thing I have noticed, particularly initially, I don't know if you saw this, Joel, but when you go for a walk, people would look at you like you were diseased. And I found that quite alarming, yesterday before this pandemic, we were walking and bumping, and I reckon before, I had friends go to the New Order concert, it was all happening, and I had friends go, yeah, I'm going, and some people were deciding not to. And at one moment it was okay to hang out with 10,000 people in one auditorium, and now you walk in a park and you're 1.5 meters away and you've got a visor on, and people are looking at you like you've got some sort of disease. It's alarming. And social distancing is the wrong word. I think we should be, it sort of created this barrier between people. And I've really loved how people have gone, no, bugger that, I'm going to get around that. So in terms of the lens of change, look, I'm great with change. I've always loved it. My whole practice is about that. I don't work from, I have a studio, but I love working in other people's studios. I work from libraries. If there's a space at your desk, Joel, I can come and sit with you. I've got no problem with change, because I think, as creative people, we need to have the change lens on all the time rather than, house style, because all of our clients are different, and, we need to respond to who they are rather than what we think they are.
Really powerful lesson. Joel, for you?
Yeah, similar. I mean, I guess maybe we are, excuse me, lucky as an industry because we're used to adapting to stuff. And I think that, we've all worked on briefs where the client suddenly changes it halfway through and you have to kind of react and mold everything. And so, yeah, I feel like it's always about accepting and kind of looking for the kind of positives in it, I suppose. Although I think at the start of it, I was kind of a bit, like I said, having left a full-time position going, oh shit, what's going to happen now?
Yeah.
The opportunities have become, I don't know if you find this as well, Andrew, like you're getting stuff from different angles, and yeah, we've had some stuff cancelled, but there's it feels like people are more open to working differently, or different ways of finding people, or different ways of doing things. So you can now work for a business that maybe isn't in the same city as you, or work with clients that are, would normally maybe looking locally, that are now kind of open to working remotely or globally. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it kind of has, although it's been restrictive, it's created opportunity as well.
And the optimism from both of you, I think it's a reward that I think our viewers can take away from it. And in saying that too, Joel, what it opens you up is to collaborate on a global scale even more so than you thought before, because you don't need to jump on a plane for 24 hours to get to where you need to get to. You can do it in real time, with a UK link to whatever it is, So
yeah, totally.
Yeah, some exciting stuff I think will come from this because it's, and Andrew, you made a really good point before about the language, you know, social distancing rather than physical distancing could have been social connection, you know, or the new COVID normal. So that language is quite a powerful tool when we are using it to remain positive and elevated in a space where change is happening every morning that you wake up.
I think, you know, it's just, look, I watch movies multiple times. I don't watch a movie once and then just walk away. I'll watch a movie 5 times and I'll look at it from all different sorts of points of view. And my son made me watch Vice again, which I've, you know, watched several times on Dick Cheney. And the 2 times that I watched it with him, I paid really close attention to how the powers that be are very manipulative in and around messaging and so forth, and, you know, kind of setting up a social construct. And, you know, Dick Cheney invented the word, you know, he moved from global warming to climate change in that film. It was referenced in that film because it's easier on the ear to hear, you know, climate change than it is, you know, global warming, you know. And, you know, I think in this, you know, what was really interesting about bringing up that word collaboration, you know, people use collaboration all the time, you know, in the, you know, pre-COVID or PC, or if you want to call it that, I'm sure people have coined something like that. People, you know, they sort of said, yeah, we're collaborative and all that kind of thing. And, you know, it's all very exciting. But I really found that people were just paying lip service to it and not actually doing it properly, you know. I think, as Joel touched on, you know, it's super exciting seeing people properly collaborating and thinking about collaboration in new ways, not as just a key word that they drop in their credentials to sort of try and get in closer with a client. Like, you know, it's collaboration, the power of we is so important in the next phases of what we have to do in terms of global warming, you know, because, you know, that seems to be, I think, you know, we've had a bit of a break, but global warming is going to bite us on the arse like this current situation has, and it's going to be deeper and more far-reaching if we don't get more active about it and collaborate together and work through this solution rather than being avoidant.
Yeah. But I think the power of we is very relevant to the pandemic that we're experiencing now as well. So I think that's a really great point. Which is leading into the next one for you guys. How important is the notion of acceptance given our current landscape, and how do you motivate yourself? I mean, we've touched on it through a few of the questions and the answers already, but to be able to create a clear perspective of where you see yourselves in the future, you know? Andrew?
Look, I'm really lucky, and this is what I'm coaching people on. A lot of designers tend to just jump into their career and, you know, they become, you know, what I call studio ready. And so they become mini studios, established studios. And when I was teaching I've taught with Swinburne and Monash, did that for 10 years. One thing that I encountered in there was that there was, you know, cross-discipline campuses, and particularly at Monash, there's a really fantastic art campus there, an architecture campus. And I went to a range of lectures that made enormous impression on me. And the through line for all of these people that spoke, it didn't matter whether they were kind of, you know, hanging themselves upside down, or they were doing sort of sculptural works, or they were doing traditional sort of painted type works. They operated from this thing called a practice. And, you know, I was sitting in these things going, you know, practice, what is practice? Practice, you know, something that I didn't really get my head around when I was at design school back in the day. And it's something that a lot of designers don't talk about, practice. And I have since that time really investigated deeply what is practice and how does it manifest in a writer's or an artist's or an architect's life. And look, you know, I operate from a practice. It's like a manifesto. I work from a mantra. I know that's very kind of, you know, airy-fairy, but I have a script that is something that I refer to regularly. It's something I change. It's something I can understand what my script was last year, and I can understand what my script was in 2010. So, you know, the way that I deal with change is sort of understand who I am as a practitioner and have that mapped out clearly. And as things change, I can update my practice and say, well, okay, in this, you know, clearly in this new phase, collaboration is going to be massive. You know, nimble is another thing, and you know, kind of, you know, having a real, I suppose, workaround, like, you know, nimble workaround approach to things. And I suppose what's going to happen, you know, technology is going to allow people to automate more what we do. So you can see that with Canva and things, people are jumping onto Canva and making their own content, making their own creative. So, you know, I think it's really critical to operate from a practice, because that helps you understand who you are and what you have to offer and how you can best affect the change you want in your career. It's really hard to gauge that just on, you know, what you're making, what your folio's saying, what you're showcasing. Your practice is a lot deeper than just the work you've made and the clients you've worked for.
It's actually a deeper life lesson. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not just about your professional space, it's actually deeper than that. Joel, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just like we touched on before, that whole thing of you know, being adaptable and being kind of open to the change of it, but also just, you know, what we touched on previously about learning new things. I reckon, you know, using change as an opportunity to learn and just try different stuff and not be, I think that idea that you know, I am this and this is my kind of thing and I've got to do exactly that from now on, you know, saying, well, okay, this has happened, I'm gonna now see how that works, or try this new thing and kind of feel your way and ultimately sort of find new ways to do things, I think is the exciting thing about, you know, accepting that there is big changes happening.
Absolutely.
I think it's really, just to add, I think it's like this time is fantastic because it is uncomfortable. It is turning what we know upside down. And only in that space do you truly investigate what's going on. When everything's fine, you're not going, hey, this is awesome. You know, let's write a manifesto about that. You know, like, people, you know, in this time, when they've got their back against the walls, that's where that's where innovation lies. And, you know, it's so, I love being in this space. And there's so many creatives that, you know, they'll talk, like I was reading an interview with Tibor Kalman in his book, and he used to talk about this idea of, you know, a client would say, you know, have you done film clips before? And he'd go, yeah, we've done film clips before. And as he's walking out of the meeting, he's going, okay, I better learn how to do film clips, you know. And there's that tension there that I think is just critical in self-development. It's fantastic. So
it drives you, doesn't it?
It sure does.
It actually drives you to a point where you recognize, and what a great feeling it is when you come to the other end and you actually excel. Like, I mean, that's the power of it too. Now, this is a great lead into, you know, all three of us sitting on this call right now, we're great advocates for the education arena, and I'd love to get your advice for graduates. It's going to be so populated and very interesting in 2021, right? Because there are commercial designers that have lost potentially their positions or now freelancing, whatever the case is, and it's going to be more competitive. But for young graduates coming out of universities around the country, or even young emerging designers, have you got a piece of sage advice that you'd like to share, Andrew?
We tipped on it before about, you know, being comfortable about being in this and, you know, striving to innovate in that space. I also think too that, I was thinking about it when you sent the questions, experience is something that Joel and I have. And, you know, I think we are moving from the information age into the experience age. So people like Joel and I and you, Zaidee, you know, we all offer the world experience because we've done a decade or two or three.
We're old.
We're older, right? 30
you call
years
it, Andrew, you could call it.
But I think, you know, I think what is going to be prize for emergent designers middle-aged designers, old designers, is to continuing this sort of idea of experience and gaining experiences and working with different people. I feel that younger crew are really challenged in that, you know, they can't work with someone as easily as it was before to work with, say, someone like Joel or myself, because you know, I had a practice that had 50 people and it had like 6, and then went down to 4, and now it's 2. And getting in front of those people and working with, you know, new people with new ideas and perspectives is truly something that grows your experience. And if I was young and emergent, I suppose when I got out of design in '87, which was the big crash apparently, you know, I was dogged about getting myself with different people, because you can learn as much as you can, you know, doing Zooms and so forth, but it's that time of being with people and seeing how they do things, and I suppose, you know, making ways of creating those experiences again, and creating experience, I think is something that I would recommend pursuing. So if there's an opportunity to work with someone or go and work in someone's studio, you know, and it could be you're just taking a desk there, like, do it, because it's, you know, we know what it's like to work with people and, you know, get insights from people. And, you know, that's something that's very, very hard to get out of this sort of forum, you know, just, you know, kind of experiencing the subtlety of the way people work and the way they think, and seeing how quickly people can come up with things, and being in that, you know, being physically in that world, I think I would prioritize that.
Thank you for that. And Joel, for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really interesting. I guess when everything opens up, and hopefully it opens soon, meeting new people, whether it's at conferences or like Andrew says, you know, working with as many different people, or you know, obviously having the internet as a tool is amazing, but it makes you feel like you've got access to everything, but that can't replace the human conversations that you have, and kind of you know, serendipity that seems to provide amazing things, rather than the kind of structure of a search result. I think that actually getting out and doing things that are random and human and chaotic is probably a good way to learn things.
Thank you. I think those are some great points for our student viewers to take heed of. Okay, guys, so we want to leave the session on a high. What can you share with us that is an experience or a moment that's just actually brought you some personal joy throughout this time? Andrew, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, sure. There's been many of them, and we've only got a few minutes, so I don't want to waste your time. But one highlight was, I'm going to do a couple, right? One highlight was I smashed my car. Okay, so it was pretty traumatic, but and completely came out of the blue. But the person who I smashed into was really kind and really awesome, and it just completely blew me away, because I was ready to get my head held. I was ready to be yelled at, or my head yelled off. And the second one is I do a lot of walking around the bay, as you know, or you might not know, and I take tons and tons of photos. And on this Saturday when I was doing it, there was a little bit like it is now. There was some weather systems and so forth coming across, and I walked down to Point Ormond, and that's where Bunjil, down at the bay, dipped his his spear into the ground and told the sea to stop rising. And at that point, I was standing right on the end of Ormond Point, and there was this incredible weather system coming across, and I was just so excited because, you know, I could see the rain coming, and it was really quiet before the storm, and you could see blue sky and so forth. And I had my camera up ready to go, and I was so excited. And as I started clicking into it, I was actually kind of stepping into a squall, like a proper squall. So the rain was horizontal. I was being hailed on. I had lightning, and I just ran because I was completely exposed, and I got completely drenched. And it was just one of those moments that, you know, like I haven't run, I'm 50, so 50-year-olds don't run. So by the time I got to the shelter and recovered, you know, and got my breath back, I was completely soaked. And I realized, you know, this is one of these fantastic moments that if we didn't have this time, I wouldn't have been out in the rain and I wouldn't have nearly been struck by lightning. And it reminded me of that saying that Joan Rivers said a long time ago, which is, you can't get struck by lightning if you don't stand out in the rain. And it was just one of those moments, and I really thank COVID for that.
That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Quite personal. Joel, what about you, mate?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's an obvious answer, but it's kind of super unusual to be able to spend, although it's been hectic, this much time with kids. Like, it's been so weird and fun at the same time, just to have so much close contact with, you know, basically 3 people, my wife and 2 kids. But like all the stuff, you know, like schooling's been hectic, but they've set us some weird little challenges, and just doing, like, we've done a load of making. So like, I guess it's kind of a STEM class, but you know, my kids are 7, but you know, we've made like kind of little Roman catapults. We've made all sorts of kind of, you know, mechanical things and electric things, and just kind of the stuff that you probably would never have time or access to do, that's kind of been forced upon us, has been really interesting, I reckon, and just kind of, yeah, a good fun. But I was going to say, like, you know, I think that the major thing that feels like the kind of most positive thing out of all this craziness is just how well I think the majority of Victorians have kind of dealt with the whole thing. You know, like, majority of people have just accepted the fact that you just got to deal with it, get on with stuff. And you know, I reckon I read an article the other day that was about what life's going to be like once we're out of it, and I think that it's going to be quite an amazing feeling to be able to go out again and do things, and you know, probably it will make the kind of city feel a bit closer. Yeah,
I agree.
Hey, Joel, are you going to miss it?
I don't know if I'll miss it, but it's been an experience for sure, right?
Certainly.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
What about you, Andy?
I know it sounds really strange, but I don't want it to go away. You know, like, as you said, I agree with you. You know, hanging out with your family is, when do you ever get that time to sort of be so close to people like that? It's just so terrific. And I don't know, it's sort of scary thinking that, you know, maybe the world is going to go back to being busy again, and you know, this moment we'll kind of forget, and it'll just be all about, you know, turning up to things and, you know, on with the normal, you know. And you know, it's a really special time, I reckon.
Well, I agree with you both, and I think from my takeout from all this, I hope that when we do get through this time, and you know, we come through the other end, however that looks, whatever language that actually says to us, that we take with us the feeling of gratitude every day for what it is we've got in front of us, whether it's, you know, staff, studios, clients, and most of all family. I think the learnings from that has been quite powerful for a lot of people. So I think there's been a lot of mindset changes, and people probably, you know, we spoke about self-development. I think a lot of people have really walked that path in the last few months. So especially now, you know,
Absolutely.
What was that?
Hey, Zaidee, you going to organise a party?
Would you like?
Like, I think we need a party.
You
know, like a proper.
We need lots of parties.
Like a proper old school, you know, industry party. You know, where not about awards, just people getting together. Can you organise one of those? That'd be awesome.
I would love to organise one of those. I
know budgets are limited and so forth, but.
That's the only thing where my hesitation comes into it, Andy, but I
can see that.
I love throwing a party. Joel's been to a few of mine. He knows exactly what I'm doing. And I think the spirit of being together in community, when we are allowed to be together in a room, I think that would be probably a moment that we will remember for a while, because you'll remember a few years later going, do you remember when you came out of this? We were at this place and we had such a great time, and we were able to connect so much and potentially hug. So that's my wish. I'm going to be the audacity of hope throughout this process.
I think that's a super interesting point, like, where, you know, if you can imagine being at an event or something where before you would have gone, oh, beer, yeah, it's free, whatever, you know. Now we're going to be so appreciative of any tiny little thing, because it's, you know, new again. So that whole idea of resetting is pretty amazing, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you reckon people socialise differently? Like, not be so hesitant to just go up and say hello to someone? Because I don't know, I think you're right, Joel. People used to take, well, certainly I did, you know, you see a couple of people that you want to see and then you kind of have a drink and then you kind of nick off, you know, whereas I think, I don't know, to be able to be together with people and talk about what you love and do and, you know, the pain points and potential kind of working together, you know, that's something I'm really looking forward to.
Same.
Well, I think we have wrapped it up on a really high note, because I think what we are offering our viewers is something pretty special. You guys have been amazing. I can't thank you enough for your honesty and your heart.
Thank you.
And you really just showed such beautiful optimism in a place, and it came from a place of gratitude. And I've really enjoyed finishing it up on Reset 12 with you guys. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel. Thank you.
Fun. Yeah, good to see you.
And to our amazing viewers, it's been a crazy ride. It's been 12 episodes in. Thank you for being on that journey with us. Thank you for jumping on and subscribing. Please, I would love you guys to jump down into the description of our YouTube channel and check out the responses from Andy and Joel about what does optimism look like to you, for you and your business right now. And I can guarantee you, based on this conversation, you're going to be inspired. So, gentlemen, thank you again, and I wish you guys all the best, and I can't wait to share a beer with both of you.
Thank you, Joel.
Thanks. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much,
guys.
Bye.
For the past 12 weeks, we have connected, reflected, and learned so much from gaining insight with all our guests with Reset at Ball Doggett. We have shared in some deep conversations that had not been for this current landscape, we may not have had the fortune to delve into a platform such as this. For that, we have been grateful. We have journeyed through the experience of 25 businesses represented through the 12 episodes in this series. It's been an honor to share the space in the company of passionate, driven thought leaders. At the heart of it all, the common denominator being ensuring that their teams were supported and given the confidence to walk this path of unknown that we have all experienced. In episode 9, we went to the UK and spoke to John Haslam, Joint Managing Director of G.F. Smith, and Matt Piercy, Production Director of the UK's biggest printer, Pure Print Group. And they shared some liberal insights to what was happening and what they were experiencing in Europe also. Discussions have been honest and they've been open, copious amounts of learnings and observations shared, with the emphasis on an industry that united. Collaboration as a new normal on projects rather than as an option, deeper relationships with clients, and insight into some practical ideas on how to be motivated leaders for staff in trying times. Our aim was to create a platform where our audience could experience a sense of optimism through our shared circumstance, by the sheer willingness to jump on and to be present with Tony Bertrand, who hosted episode 8, and I. We really achieved something far greater. We created a moment to stop and breathe and be present on a Friday at 2 p.m. and hear the experiences of others echoing how we potentially may have felt at every ebb and flow throughout this pandemic. A community came together, really cementing the notion that we are not alone on this ride. There was a sense of knowing that everyone is experiencing the same challenges, personally and professionally. We have a collection of 25 quotes gifted to us by our guests, responding to the question, what does optimism look like to you and your business? My hope is when you need to be lifted, you could revert back and peruse our YouTube descriptions in the entire Reset series and gain some inspiration from these quotes of optimism. I know I certainly have. What I am proud most of is the feedback we have received from some of you expressing your gratitude for Reset with Ball Doggett, sharing how it has brought value to yourself and to your staff. For some, it has provided clarity. Others have acknowledged they've seen opportunities that have revealed themselves in different forms. One of the greatest lessons for myself is having to be present, even more so, and continue to remain optimistic in this pandemic. Personally, I've experienced a deeper connection with my colleagues, and I'm grateful for the wonderful culture we get to experience within the walls of Ball Doggett. We all script our own stories and experiences in life so uniquely, and that truly is a gift. From all of us at Ball Doggett, we wish you, your families, and your staff all the best.